Okay, so we're going live in like 30 seconds.
All right.
I know. There was like a intro, like theme music, like that from my spirit.
The Savage remix.
I was about to say that. Honestly, that's really how I want to start my day. Every day.
You want me to play it for the people or nah?
I mean, why not? I mean, we'll see. I don't know.
Only thing is, you can get kicked out.
Outro. We'll do it as outro.
Okay. Yeah, that's smart because they'll kick people off for copyright infringement.
About Savage, Meg Thee Stallion, Beyonce,
Period.
This kickback, but I'm so happy and thrilled and wow, can we just get like a little shimmy, a little sense for being here, for being live? Yes, I'm so excited to be here. Welcome to the We've Been Here Poetry Month Kickback series. I'm just gonna ask, can other people mute their mic so because I feel like there's a little feedback. Cool. Thank y'all so much. Welcome to the We've Been Here Poetry Month Kickback series. Sadly, this is the last one, but this has been a journey. Tonight's kickback is on my pronouns are my pronouns and my name is my name. And it's hosted by yours truly, Golden. I'm really excited to had the honor to curate this series and to have so many amazing trans and non-binary artists to feature along this past month. And I have Chrysanthemum, Texas Isaiah, and Oompa tonight. I'm so thrilled that the Mayor's Office for Arts and Culture and the Office Women's Advancement were our partners this month to bring this series together. So just wanted to start off the night and just say that some of the content in this series includes topics that are particularly sensitive or include strong language. We believe in the importance of providing space for artistic expression and in the power of poetry as a means of engaging with important topics. We encourage you to initiate conversations with your community if any of the content moves you to do so, or to take pause and a moment to reflect if you feel the need to. We'll be posting links to these artists' work on the Facebook little comment above, and we'll be sharing different things like that throughout the night so you can check out their work. I'm excited to just be, amongst this lineup. Like I look at the bios, like I'm over here like pulling up the bios to like introduce these artists, and I'm just like, wow, they're just so amazing. And the last thing before we get into the features, I just want to do a land acknowledgement. As we understand that the United States is on stolen land and that Boston in particular is on the land of the Wampanoag tribe. So we want to acknowledge that and be sure to speak true to that. And hopefully one day their tribe will get their land back. So without further ado, I think we can just like kick it off into the features. That's what we're here for. We're here for that amazing energy, this beautiful work. So I'm just going to read this first bio. So Texas Isaiah is a visual narrator based in Los Angeles, Oakland, and NYC. You just, all over the map. Let me find out. The intimate works he creates center the possibilities that can emerge by inviting individuals to participate in the photographic process. He is attempting to shift the power dynamics rooted in photography to display different ways of accessing support in one's own body. Texas Isaiah's work has been exhibited in numerous spaces such as, I'm not going to butcher this one, so can you help me out here, Texas Isaiah, with this first one? It's Photografska. I'm going to hope that's the right one.
Yeah.
I don't disrespect anyone. Aperture Foundation Gallery, Charlie James Gallery, Studio Museum in Harlem, Residency LA, Hammer Museum, The Kitchen. Wow. His work has been featured in Artform, The Fader, Visco, Vice, Lala Magazine, and The Culture Magazine. He is one of the 2018 grant recipients of Art Matters and the 2019 recipient of the Getty Images Where We Stand Creative Bursary Grant. Without further ado, let's give it up for Texas Isaiah.
Thank you, everyone. I am so glad to be here. Golden, thank you so much for facilitating these last couple of discussions which I've checked out, which has been really, really amazing. So my name is Texas Isaiah. TI for short is totally cool. My pronouns are he, him, his. So I'm going to present my work. So I guess I'm presenting on entire screen or a window. Entire screen, right? That's what I'm doing. Okay. Oh, cool. Can everyone see that? If somebody responds to me.
Let's see. It's gonna take a little bit to come through. I don't think so. Let's see. Uh,
Okay.
Try it one more time. If you click the bottom button where it says present now, and then click the window that you want to present from, it should pop up.
Okay. I don't think it's going to let me actually because there's something going on with my computer.
Okay. If you want to talk about your work and send me the link, I can present it on my computer and have it pop up.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great. So sorry.
Good. This
Um,
is a new territory for everyone. You are not the first person this happened to, so if we're all good. We're excited to
I
be
also
here.
I also just got a new laptop, so I feel
Mhm.
like, some things so I'm gonna email you right now.
Cool, cool, cool.
I'm like, Mercury's in retrograde, sis. All right, I sent it.
Great. I'll pull it up now.
Awesome. To everyone watching, my bad.
All good, all good. Okay.
Oh, she said there may be an option.
Got it.
Awesome. There we go. Thank you so much.
Right.
And thanks so much for everyone's patience. This is my name, as I said. We could just go to the next slide. Um, so, ironically enough, this image is titled My Name is My Name One. And it was photographed in Oakland, California in 2016. Um, this was actually, it wasn't the first time that I visited Oakland, but it was the sort of genesis to my move to California. And the title was inspired by the debut album of Pusha T titled My Name is My Name. And it was released in 2013, I believe. And this is a self-portrait, so all of the images that will be presenting are self-portraits, and I think during this time, the album name, which is actually one of my favorite Pusha T albums, sort of inspired me to think about the presence of particularly Black gender expansive individuals within image making, and in order to, I guess, interrogate what that would look like, I decided to use my own body. And so, in a lot of ways, too, this image was also inspired by Frank Ocean's Blonde, because I think I was a little late on listening to the album, and so right before this image was taken, I was like I walked around for 45 minutes to an hour, and I just listened to the album, and I think that the music element of it inspired for this image to be a color image, because everything prior, most of the images that I was taking prior to this I was mostly taking black and white images, and so I felt like a lot of the musical elements and the language sort of drove me into figuring out what making color images would look like. And that is also because I'm a little colorblind. So my relationship to sort of, I guess, digesting colors is a little bit different than everyone else's. And so this is, this is a project that I'm still working on. And yes, very much influenced by Frank Ocean and Pusha T. We can move to the next one. And so this is a continuation of the My Name is My Name series. And so this is My Name is My Name 3, and it was taken in 2018 in Los Angeles, specifically South Central. And the musical element that inspired me was actually Kelsey Lou's Dream. And I believe Kelsey Lou just goes by Lou as her stage name. But it was off of an early EP titled Church. And I feel like the lyrics didn't inspire this image, but the orchestration of the song did. And what allowed me to gravitate towards this kind of image making is this was shot in my room in my old apartment, and I lived in a house called The Altar, which is a collective housing space, again, based in South Central, primarily holding Black and brown, gender expansive femme folks. And I lived there for about 2 years. And in 2014, mind you, I moved in 2017. So in 2014, in December, a Black trans disabled individual named Kaite Davidson had passed away in that space. And so I had not met him prior to that. But I ended up meeting a lot of people, a lot of close friends of mine who knew him. And there were some people in the house that knew him as well. So there were some folks who were living there for a very long time, and had witnessed his passing. And I was doing a lot of dream work around this time. I was dreaming a lot about Kaite. They had an altar in the living room for him, and I had my altar in the room. So I felt like we were communicating in that way. And so, this image also, again, going back to the first image was, trying to find a way to figure out, what Black trans image making can look like, but also paying homage to someone who had spent time in this space and someone who I was connecting with. And all of these candles on the right-hand side are candles that I had burned. And again, not for this image, but just, for my spiritual practice. And the two candles to the left are for Kaite. And those candles are, just for the heart chakra and for clarity. That's one of my plants that unfortunately it passed away, but it was by my altar. And then the roses and the red and the white flowers on the bottom. The reason why I chose red is because the altar room, which is where this image was taken, was the roots of the house. And so it was sort of leading through the chakra system, right? And roses to me also represent boundaries. And so I was kind of like creating a protective portal. And so, yeah, if you get a chance to listen to that song, it was, a song that I, woke up to, went to bed listening to. It's a beautiful track and definitely influenced the making of this image. We can go to the last slide. Thank you. So yes, this is probably one of my favorite images. This is titled Space Beneath My Feet. And it was taken in August of 2018 after I had finished a project, a collaboration with an artist based here named EJ Hill. And he developed a project called Excellentia Molentia Victoria, which is Latin for excellence, resilience, and victory. And the premise of the project was that he would visit 6 of 7 schools he attended in Los Angeles, and he ran around each of them, charting a course along the streets. And he kind of described these runs as victory laps, as a way to like reinsert his body into the places where he never felt fully accepted yet. Yet they were very foundational to his development. And so I took the images for this project. And so I kind of ran with him. And so I think that this image was a decompression image that I dedicated to him. And the title of the image comes from a fabulous artist, Serpent with Feet, and the song is called Whisper, and it's from his debut album Soil. And the lyrics basically go like, you can place your burden on my chest. The best parts of you lie at the bottom of you. I love you from the space beneath my feet and beneath that and beneath that. And this was taken in Joshua Tree, the evening time. The surface was very hot. I think it was 100 degrees that day. And why, I guess, one, Soil is a beautiful album that you should check out. And I think that what I guess gravitated, or I should say, why the lyrics held the image so much is that I wanted to sort of pay homage to this Black masculine person that I had collaborated with on this, on his project that held me. We both emotionally held each other, during the making of that project. And I know that it was extremely difficult for him to revisit spaces that have harmed him. And then also, as a Black gender expansive person, very much understanding what that feels like. And so, for me, I think that the positioning of this image is like kind of like me sort of forcing myself against this wall that represents a lot of things, right? Systemic oppression, transphobia, anti-Blackness, right? But also, how EJ kind of comes into this image too is that, I feel the reason why I am nude is because I feel like I had opened myself up to him in this creative way. And so it me pushing against this wall and thinking about this kind of love, that I have for this person, that I have for Black people, is infinitive, and eternal in this way. And so, that's kind of like the making of this image was, yes, a decompression image, but I feel like a lot of it was definitely led with love, and a lot of healing. So yeah, that concludes my presentation.
Wow.
Thank you, y'all.
I was like still stuck like on the images, kind of just like taking it all in and just like ruminating. But wow. I love your work. I think it's just so beautiful. And like I remember when I was like even coming up with this like Kickback, I was like, and I think it's a good mix when like what the audience will see tonight is like that like poetry shows up in different ways, right? And I think that like a poetry doesn't have to just be a poem that's written in a text, right? I think that it shows up in many ways, and I see the poetry and like the way even just like your body is like holding up, right? Like I think that there's poetry in the way that like there's a visual poetics that is happening. And thank you for sharing your work. I'm just like so lovely to
Thank you.
to take it in. Yeah.
Thank
And I
you.
can't wait to talk more about like all these things that you bring up later on. So thank you so much.
No, thank you.
Yeah, of course. So I mean, we're just gonna just keep rolling. I mean, like I say before, every time I do this like Kickback, I'm like, it's just bangers after bangers. Like it's just like really like rich, amazing work every time. And so I just have to just like pause and take it in and just like sing praise. So without further ado, let's just like kick it on up to our next artist. I mean, their name is just like Oompa. I mean, like I could just say it, and I can already hear the like applause, the cheers, the just like people like feeling energy. And I mean, the bio is just speaks for itself. So I'm just gonna gas up for a little bit. So Oompa is a Boston-born recording artist, poet, educator, and 2019 Brother Thomas Fellow, who always brings something new to live performance and never leaves home without an interactive and engaging set. She is the winner of the 2019 Live Act of the Year, 2018 Unsigned Artist of the Year award from Boston Music Awards after unprecedented 12 total nominations. 12 total nominations. I'm just going to underline that. The 2017 Woman of the World Poetry Slam winner and a finalist of the 2016 National Poetry Slam, and has been featured on numerous publications, including the Grammy Awards, NPR Tiny Desk, Huffington Post, Boston Magazine, and NBC 10. Like, it's just like, what else do you have to say? I'm gonna add in my own thing that like Oompa has like really challenged me to just like keep pushing my work forward and keep reimagining new ways to do work and to just like show up for community in Boston. So it's been a pleasure, or it's going to be a pleasure to have them. So without further ado, let's give it up for Oompa, everyone.
Thank you, Golden. Okay, all right. This is so new. First of all, being on live and like thinking about, because I heard that line in my bio that I forgot about. That was like, it never leaves home without an interactive and engaging set. Psych, not today, anyhow. But thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here, and I'm really excited to think about my name and how I exist in the world and like my location. And I'm really excited to share. And I'm also very nervous because I haven't touched the poem. And like I said, in a few years, but only you, Golden, only you could get me to even read. Well, not, only you could get me to do this out loud right now at this particular time. So anyways, it's a good thing I don't look like what I've been through. And my mama gene's stronger than the mental. Now, I ain't saying I'm exempt from depression and content. I'm just saying all the shit I've been through should have pulled me out the game a long time ago. Coach told me fourth quarter where you find the GOAT. And everybody got it, but not everybody got it. And you better off if you find a team to run a rock with. It's real easy to catch a head case, especially in this world look like blackness like it's dead space. And they always try and fill that shit with violence. It's all about perspective. Can't we say the same about silence? Always trying to fill it with our little bitty selves like we bigger than this world, like we ain't a bunch of cells, just hit it fit the mold, man. I'm done with metaphors. What I mean to say, it's always going to end up better for you. Trust the process. They call me orphan, endorphin, chasing, predator, and impatient, insane, and some more shit. I made them call me oomph. They can name me what they want. What I call me is more important. Homie, I'm the king if I say so. Homie, I'm the queen if I say so. A bitch when I want to be. Any weapon formed against the G, better pray to everything I make that it ever makes it in front of me. I'm prospering. Cool. So this first one that I'm gonna do is actually about so I've been thinking a lot, well, I was thinking a lot when I was writing these poems, a lot about my relationship to masculinity and femininity and how they both have showed up for me and in ways that that I'm forever indebted to, but they've also shown up in ways that I think have been harmful, and I just was wanting to engage with that a bit. So this first poem is called Precinct. It was about the first time I got arrested, and although I wasn't, this is not the poem that I wanted it to be, which was about the fact that I was, when I had been arrested, I was, it was a mistaken identity. They were looking for a 6 foot tall black male, and I don't know if you know me, my name is Oompa for a reason, with a gun, and that wasn't at all us, but I was thinking about what they were looking for and how blackness and masculinity kind of always appear bigger and more threatening than it was. And that was a poem that I wanted, but somehow it ended up being about something different. And so it's called Precinct. Now I need you to listen up and listen real good. When you in my house, everything you got is mine. You hear me? Everything. He means me. So I relinquish to him what is owed then. My face in the gravel of his first, my wrist in his cuffs, his, my thumb and birth, his, the hoodie and jeans, his, my socks and drawers, his, shoelaces, shoes, his, every hair clip for my safety, miles an hour laters, they don't return to me, his, the Newports and the Bic are his, the knife. His face is entrenched with pride and disbelief before the knife is his, and then it becomes. The woman officer whom he demands unfold the rest of his will must be his too. She says, squat, now cough, and even the nothing that falls from me is his. Everything the nothing falls from. She asked for my thumb, and both of our nail beds are fraying and dirty, and his. When I'm naked and have nothing I came with, I don't ask if we are done. I just follow, swallow my last throat full of salt and plea. Presumed innocence is an acquired taste here, it seems, and no one on the other side of these still doors tries what they don't like more than once. I smile, I laugh even, hunched over, and he asks me what I'm laughing at. I say nothing. He thinks I don't have my mind, so he doesn't ask me for the dirty thing. I lay down, the light goes out, and I smile. My name. He never asked me for it. It's mine. I tuck it under my head. I make myself a comforter for it, and I keep it safe. Cool. Man, this is so different. But the next one is called Femme Fatigue, which I adapted, I think, a little bit from the one that I did in 2017. Anyhow, it's in 3 parts. We children on an ownerless avenue with our loud, hungry bellies trade stories of women we go with like jabs to tame the beast. And the harmony of their crashing from our lips makes us forget, for however brief, that we are the empty and unprotected ones. Here, I'm one of the boys. I put dinner, war stories, or wanting women in our mouths, and no boy's hunger turns eyes to make me flesh. The pursuit of lusting mouths. Here, I say no. And no does not return to me with bite marks. I say fuck you, and here it means my brother's keeper. All this boyhood dripping from our teeth, all this trained baritone and vibrato, all these molars growing into the shape of taking. Of course, we are the nightshade. Of course, the nightshade of our togetherness means we can easily look ripe enough for picking. Of course, then, we are to a choir of tall tea robes with foreheads anointed by sweat, always ready for the revivals and the homegoing. Of course, then, the premature funeral hymns we practice each dusk know our mouths like they do a preacher's lung, or the cool of worthy casket lining, like our mouths know how to recite a Styles P lyric, like they all know how to send a black boy back home. We have all been here before, each time one of us on the different side of alive. 2. When the men approach our stoop, ready to lay claim to the street, they move with the speed and precision of mortician hands. Each spoke below them, a second hand synced with our unraveling. I mean, on this stoop, time and death are in an eternal slow dance, and we live until someone's shoes are stepped on. We tuck everything worth more than $1 inside of us in hopes that they are just doing their man jobs of scaling for bloody bodies to bring back, or in case they have come to give themselves new ones. I'm equal parts afraid of losing my body and equal parts afraid to look afraid. And at the speed of fight or flight, I play dead, or ready to dance, or this girl's kind of alive. I mean, I make my body a fishing line and the catfish out of water. I make myself an endangered wiggle and shimmy, and I give the men the power to throw me back or make their bellies fat with me. I ask the men in the hearse what they're looking for tonight. If they like their femme sunny side up or scrambling, I am the girl here after all, some kind of canonical heroine. I know how to spin when spun and which foot to land on if it means the music won't cool into a hymn. I know that I'm the first to jump and the last catch of the day. I know how this goes. No never has to leave me. And yet so many things will return to me with bite marks. I guess the blood will mean I've done my job. I guess the blood will turn us into men. I guess the blood will mean there can be business as usual. 3. The men decide we are not the stories they want to transcribe over obituaries tonight. That the threat has made men of the boys and they drive off. We get to run. Tonight, I've made an undertaker think I was not worth the taking, and I don't know if that merits celebrating aliveness or if I am at all, ever was. If a gravestone reading one of the boys could be my proudest accomplishments this lifetime, after all, I wonder if they'll ever see the fractions of my death I leave scattered everywhere we survive. Cool. Oh, okay, I see y'all. Oh, thank you. You're so good to me. I think I got 2 more things left. This is kind of separate, but as I was sharing this with a friend, this was the one that was moving me. But also is the one that stuck out to my friend who, I was asking, like, what's your opinion of what I should read tonight? And it's about my mother, actually. Completely separate from what I've been talking about, but I wrote this because I was having, for a long time, I wasn't having any dreams. I wasn't dreaming. I was only having nightmares. But one of the ones that kept being consistent was like whenever my mother would show up in my dream, there was some like race against the clock, and if I beat the clock, she would stay alive. But there was sometimes in the dream where I knew she actually had passed already, but I still had to engage in this like while asleep. So I wrote about that. My dead mother visits me in dreams. And each time, if I beat the clock, she stays awake. Her jaw melts over the stiff of her dentures, and forever she leaves me voicemail messages, static with the sound of her cheeks rubbing against her smile as she tells me there is leftover rice on the stove. I return each panic-ridden one. I don't choose the sub shop no matter how overcooked the beans are. If I win, she cleans my laundry against my will, opens my mail, and sits on the red couch waiting for me to get home forever. If I win, I know to thank her. I'll ask her about her day, turn off the TV, sit on the ottoman, braid her hair, and listen as she tells me all about it. When she waits for me to bury my head in her chest, pour my heartbreak into her, I never give her the weight. Good, I tell her of my days. I leave the heaviness for my room. I don't mention that day at 18, my tears a puddle on a foreign Amtrak floor, the graduation, the new niece or growing nephews. I don't mention the burial I gave myself instead of the cremation she asked for, or that I know how this ends, that my lover will wake me when the sobs are too much to sleep through. I don't tell her I imagine her in a place where a lover wakes her the same. I never give her the weight. I part each braid neat, slide oil down the scalp. I give her something pretty to take back with her. Thank you. And last but not least, I like to, oh, thank you. Y'all are mad cute. Last but not least, I like to end all of my sets with this song. It's my favorite song to perform at the moment. But it's gonna be a cappella, so it's gonna be real different, okay? But you just gotta hear, make it up in your head, okay? Make it happen. I'm that it's my mama B-Day, I ain't going back to school, sad. You been gone 9 years, no 40 acres on a mule, sad. I be goddamn if the homie ain't free, still a nigga in America. That news be chasing me, boy, I be flexing like I ain't stressed. Like ain't no depression, a black Jetson. Boy, it's hell yeah, ain't no yesums, ain't no time card, ain't no wage gap. I'm behind that wheel of fortune, no van and no Sajak, my niggas. I see you, folk. That day job pay you for the vision, you leave them know. And put a few fries in the bucket when it ain't your stove. But when it comes to your business, you take no shorts. Hey, that's some real for you. I feel for you, boy. They always want me to dance. I tell them if the check ain't thick as me, I really can't. But if it is, boy, you know I'm hitting that Millie Rock. I hit the bank, the 401k, then I lift my block. Really, what did you ask? And coaching vouchers get taxed. I'm black as of Uncle Sam, and I'm black as the back of hands. Black as the magic sand coming back from a pile of land, finna borders and pious man. Back up, we about to blam, y'all. I can't believe I came this far. I can't believe I lost it all. When I think about all I won, I gotta thank you. Sing it, go to A. I can't believe I came this far, and I can't believe I lost it all. And when I think about all I won, I gotta thank you. Y'all, on that black chubby hood ride, big dog with the good cat, smoking on that loud pack, trying to buy the hood back. I know that they mad at me. I escaped that felony, and if you want me behind bars, you gotta pay my salary. Turn the pain to melody, they trying to pick my brain. Ooper, you do your thing, trying to do that the same. Be like if you ain't got it, can't make $1 from change. We cut from a different cloth, and your fabric, that's all my, I don't know how to wear it, I don't know how to panic. I just go like, I damn it, there she go. Hold that nabbit, she gon' blow. Then they mad, cause when she go, she gon' grab it, hit the stove. Won't she have it? They don't know I'm made from magic, y'all. I can't believe I came this far, and I can't believe I lost it all. And when I think about all I've won, I gotta thank you. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Yes. So good.
Thank you, boo.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all for listening.
Whenever I was like a good boo, I had like have to play that song. Like that's one of my like lift my spirit songs in my playlist. So yes, I love every time you do it. Like
That means a lot. Thank you,
I
boo.
it all the time, but like, just give me that call. Let me know. Let me know. Let me know. Let me know. I'm gonna be there. But thank you so much for your presentation.
Indeed.
Wow, wow.
Thank you.
I can't. We're only halfway through, and I'm just like, my spirits just feel so warm, feel so motivated, so loved. So thank y'all so much for like showing up. I mean, I knew this was gonna happen. I mean, I was just like, wow, I'm just about to be like shook the whole night. I mean, y'all are amazing. Um, Next up is one of my favorite poets, ever to grace a poetry stage ever. So Chrysanthemum Tran is a writer and performer based in Rhode Island. She is recipient of 2019 McCall Johnson Fellowship from the Rhode Island Foundation and a 2020 Artist in Residence at Williams College. With poet Justice Amir, she debuted the two-woman show Anthem at the American Repertory Theater's Oberon. Featured on Button Poetry and in the New York Times, she has work published in Them, The Nation, The Offing, the Bettering American Poetry Anthology, among others. She is not embarrassed by her taste in pop culture, but maybe she should be. I don't think you should, Chrysanthemum, because you're amazing, and I already know they are about to just shut it down. So let's just give it up for Chrysanthemum Tran, everyone.
Oh, you all are angels. Oh my goodness. Golden, thank you for inviting me and bringing all of these beautiful cherubic angels all together. Um, wow. Texas Isaiah and Oompa, you all were out of control. Um, wow. Okay, I'm gonna just read some poems. I'm gonna kind of take you all on a journey right now of where I've evolved with naming poems, or at least writing about names. Um, yeah, I'll start off with an old one that I find a lot of value in because it was the first poem I ever really wrote about my dad. My father named me after Christopher Columbus. Yeah, like the colonizer, like the false god of discovery, like my father dreamed I would eventually earn the worth of my namesake. My abandoned name means bearer of Christ. Ironic, since I've never known any god not named after a man. I remember classmates routinely mangling my family name, Tran. They call me Tranny before I even understand how to shed blood like a woman. Ironic how I transition, and that costs me my blood family. But 1 year after I come out to my father, I come home to a birthday card addressed to Chrysanthemum Tran. I wonder if love is seeing my chosen name nestled next to our family name, all spelled out in my father's handwriting. Perhaps it's him loving me enough to let go of the man he wanted me to be in order to love whatever I have become. Despite being named after Columbus, you might say I discovered myself. Might say I discovered my body is a nation without borders. You could say he made the greatest discovery of all, where a father can love his daughter without apology. Alrighty. Thank you. No, I love all of you. I I really resonate with so much of what we've been talking about. Uh, I want to say to Texas Isaiah that I am colorblind, and so when you were talking about how colors play in your work, I was thinking a lot about the muddiness of how I view the world because a lot of my own poetry is based on crafting an image. Um, and, I try to really think about that because although I am just using words, I'm trying to present an image that you conjure up in your mind. Um, but so lately, I've been trying to think about how do I subvert maybe what people are expecting because when you see me, there might be an expectation of what kind of work I'm going to present. Um, there might be some assumption that I'm writing on some common Asian American tropes about lunchroom stories about food or things about, little comments that have been made to me. But I think I'm no longer there. I think I'm really interested in how I'm legible to a government. I think that right now, all I can think about is how I want to be read and what value I am to the government. Um, this is a poem about Alias. Um, no, a poem called Alias. There we go. While scheduling a follow-up appointment, I give the first name I keep in confidence in exchange for medical care. My doctor's Hancock is the key to the gate, if not the levee itself. Etymology would suggest I am one who carries Christ across a river, knee deep in the deluge. I cannot outrun him the way I do my debt. When asked what I am called, I mutter with caution, hide evidence of who I was beneath mumble and hesitation. The economy of naming implies I want to be recognized. I don't. Forewarning, please don't call me. I don't prefer pronouns. If possible, I prefer not to be referred to at all. Mind your manners. I'm prioritizing the first person. I've no time for a third. By now, I know to await the legion of bloodhounds in perpetual pursuit of a bounty. There's always a he who follows at every street, of every corner, of every border. He is present, persistent, demands I identify myself legally or biblically. Lucky for him, I'm prone to losing my wallet. By all means, milk me for all I'm worth. Have my pin and my mother's maiden name. If leaving was easy, I might lose myself more often. Abandon my thumbprints on the sear of a stake. I'm too clumsy to fear loss. When distinguishing biology from gender, when stifling the dog whistles in my record, I expect the sneer, the snort, the surveillance of his eyes rolling back into the past. I don't mean to be difficult. If I was trying to deceive, you would not know. Lucky for me, my Y chromosome makes a poor fugitive. Lucky for you, I like to eat. Obedience is transactional. I submit myself as evidence. When calling the bank to cancel my card, when waiting for day to pass at the DMV, when contesting the extent to which I exist for Social Security. I come home, warmly welcomed by medical bills reminding me to whom I owe my health. I think it's called being a good citizen. Thank you for rescuing me from myself, for loaning courtesy on the condition I maintain myself as currency. Pardon me, I went to bed a boy and woke up lawless. I'm riding off on a stallion at sundown toward towns unmapped by syntax. Catch me when you can. I prefer to be waiting. Okay. Thanks. I feel so supported by people I can't hear. Like, thank you. I have kind of like a nasty poem, not like nasty, like it's metaphor, but I also have a poem about um Daenerys Targaryen from Game of Thrones, but it's not about Daenerys Targaryen. It's about my mother. Um, so I think these are going to be my last two poems, and I want to kind of reference these two because the first one is about um, me being a trans person in a relationship with another trans person, and how that has made me really think about what is the point of life, right? That like if human evolution says that we're here to reproduce, but I don't want kids regardless, you know, I'm making something about myself futile. Um, and this poem, has a preface which is before October 2014. Rhode Island required proof of sterilization in order to change the gender marker listed on a birth certificate. This has been true in most states in the US and many countries, and it is still true in quite a few places. Um, but I'm, really thinking about how I'm sterile, and so what value do I have to this world? This poem is called Partners in Crime. It's like PG-14. Like, if you're under 14, take your headphones out. Um, like any good cowgirl wrangling in reverse, I go tit for tat. Pardon me. It's my soft spot for men whose roars alone unmask their pansy. I'm a bear cub, lapping up the moon's milk, mouth ajar in admiration of Ursa Major's reign. Winter came and stuck around. I picture his tent in the woods, the fire stoked with easy instinct, a couple of twigs he lays with legs akimbo, kindling like all of God's physics demands a watchful eye. I'm much too impatient. I'd rather inhale the rush of him, number all the lives lived between us, stretch a timeline as our digits vanish and reappear from each other. I did not botch boyhood. I simply gave up before growing up. I surrender handcuffs for a limp wrist, untether guilt from glory. There's a whole frontier still unreached beneath snowfall's cover. We escape biology, disobey borders of nomenclature. I like not knowing the path. Don't pity the barrens. We love it here. How the drought sobers us raw. What once was reckless is now free of risk. We're outlaws on the run from nothing but time. I suppose words are seasonal too. It's a fair exchange. Every footstep we press eventually returns back home. I look forward to leaving behind no evidence of us, not even a hyphen between our surnames to document the families we bridged. Just our spit will do. Needless to say, spring's canceled. Spring is off for good. I'm trying to, thank you. I feel like I'm really currently trying to think about like what the Western is in terms of like a genre, and like I'm liking writing about cowboy stuff, and like I think that makes me really think about what do you expect from me? No, you may not expect a cowboy poem out of me, but that's my primary interest in life is like gay cowboys. That is entirely what I live for. R.I.P. Heath Ledger. This last poem was going to be about uh, my mom. A couple months ago, my grandfather on my mom's side passed. And He lives or had lived in Oklahoma City, where a majority of my family lives. They're very conservative, very religious, and I have not spoken to my mom in over 5 years. Um, so I went back and forth thinking about whether or not to attend the funeral. Um, and I feel like that's even such a different time now because I don't know if funerals are even really happening anymore. And to know that this is probably the last funeral I would have had the chance to attend and I didn't go. Um, it sucks. But as always, I turn to television, and this is a poem kind of like from the perspective of Daenerys Targaryen's last dragon. You don't have to know that. Daenerys is a powerful white woman. She's got dragons. All her dragons are dead except one. This is from the perspective of the dragon that lived. She's like the most powerful white woman too. Like Daenerys Targaryen, she's top two. Okay. Last of my name, I surpass myth. The common tongue lacks the words to pin me down. I'm a sketch of lightning, slipping through syllables. What they define, I defy. Village gossip binds the bestiary. I know how fear works, how the monstrous gain infamy, how someone cites a glimpse of teeth, and how that sparks second and third hand rumors, and how quickly the empire panics. Consider a child watching a horror movie, his powder blue eyes peeking between fingers, how even a mere fraction of you frightens him, and yet he can't look away. No surprise what I mask, I unname. What I leave behind follows. My mother birthed me under a cackling heat, just 3 moons before her own day of birth. I emerge half-hatched, cracked, shattering at the equator, a dim-sum tea egg in mid-autumn. At the core, a sun. My mother birthed a son, prodigal child of old gods. I came out smiling, steaming in a fever I never outgrew. I was born outside in, how no one could foresee the wealth of blood I would make my own. Consider a kingdom buckling in the 11th hour, the siege, cherry red and charcoal. When the cannon fire stakes its claim, the hearth is the last to burn. I was her only and last son. Bright and guiltless, I fled alone, away from smoke, toward an unreachable horizon line. I know my mother, bless her, gifted me my first breath. How she lit the whole hospital with disappointment. I came out hot and bursting. What you name beast must also be the blade. I see no joy in flight without anyone to catch me. History might teach the solitary survives, but I know the herd can outlive an extinction. Consider a castle, surrendering only after the fact, only when my apology pivots on my forgiveness. I'm selfish, just like she said. One day, my mother will pass. They will beckon me home. I will make the pilgrimage back south toward arms of family, blood of my blood who took their name back. I stare into the fire she left behind, and all the children I might have stare back. I render sex useless. I say she's my sister. So the fact is, she is my sister. How our blood is twisting like vines. My spine is also her spine. With siblings I chose, I confront those offended by my survival. I'm so sorry. So sorry I'm here. So sorry I fell and kept breathing, and my new blood stopped me from kissing the ground. The swarm never lets me fall too far, catches me, even when I'm too heavy for wind, even when my name demands too many syllables. Tradition says whether burial or cremation, it is known. You must let your mother know peace. One final gift from her son. So I'll keep the peace that was promised. I'll be generous enough to give you this final notice. The next time you require my presence, it would serve you well to remember how one addresses a crowned matriarch with recognition of the kings I've burned, of the thrones I've won, of bloodlines I've ended. Thank you all so much. Golden, I'm so freaking excited.
Wow. I always feel like I have to like lean close and like just like I feel like you're like every time you read a poem, just like Chrysanthemum's like is like saying this poem to me. Like I don't know, it's like it feels like it's very in the ear, very like the images just pop out, and so like I always come back to your work and like the sound of it is just so visceral. So thank you so much for sharing. Like wow. I just I just want to give a round of applause to y'all real quick just because y'all are so amazing, and I'm just like so blessed to be sharing alongside you. So I guess this is the weird portion where I'm going to read some poems, and I don't know if that sure, cool, great. This is gonna be great. This is gonna be wonderful. It's not like, you know, the world is shut down and I got poems to read. It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting, and I hope y'all are along with this journey for me. I'm not gonna read my bio. I'm not doing that. If you want to read my bio, you can go to my website. But you know, I would like to shout out the Mayor's Office for Arts and Culture for putting me on as a Boston artist in residence. I'm so excited to be like curating this series and to be sharing this like platform with so many amazing people. So I'm just gonna read like 3 poems. I really don't want to like spend it on me too long, so I'm just gonna keep it like I'll do 4 poems. I'll do 4 poems. So when I was coming up with this lineup, I was thinking of a lot about gender presentation and also what I will call gender projection, as like what people think gender should be or how genitalia should show up. And so I wrote this poem in like interrogating what gender and how phenotype shows up. So this poem is called XYXX. XY. Everyone wants a chunk of flower flesh on their front lawn. Seasoned I walk, and niggas here rioting. I just want to party when I switch. I am a man, same suede black as their do-rags. People ask me, boy, and I answer with fist. Cry, kill Mo, prying the dirt from children's buckled teeth again. I'm used to metaphor and shame. It never lingers. Some sisters call me kin because I am trash and I know it. We dissect Adam's rib because holding my girl with my dick in my palm means safety, means school children get silent, meets church girls playing on pavements with my joy. Uncles at my family gatherings will tell you I am a product of my own hood. I offend those who don't know biology like I do. Cookout mouth and grateful bartering. God gave us language for devil, but did not bother translating the sin. My black ass needed a beating, glutton for blood that saves relentlessly. I got to be gun-hole sweet to sit at our table unbothered. Everyone wants me to kill my demons because my healing is so, so important. I soldier here for God and still think about sobbing on Sunday. Study the shunning, hand me a goblet of my own testicles, and ask me if my mom made me this soft. Ask me why I haven't learned to stand outside too long in my own skin, and I will tell you about flowers still souring on my front driveway when it rains, looking like mirrors. I still don't know their name. XX. Everyone wants a chunk of fat flesh on their front lawn. Sacrificial I walk, and sissies here rotting. I just want to pass when I switch. I am a bruise, same suede black as their acrylics. People ask me, girl, and I answer with fatigue. My ancestors cry, kill me, prying the dirt from corpses' buckled teeth, estranged. I'm used to mania and shame. It never leaves. Some sisters call me misogynistic because I am transgender and I know it. We dissect Adam's apples because holding my titties with my dick in my Bible means anarchy, means school children get sliced, means church girls painting on pavements with my jugular. Uncles at my funeral gathering will tell you I am a conductor of my own death. I offend those who don't know God like I do. Cookout mouth and graceless bartering. God gave us language for angel, but did not bother translating the pronouns. My black ass needed a father, glutton for blood that loves relentlessly. I got to be glory hole, sweet to sit at our table, breathing. Everyone wants me to kill myself because my healing is so, so ugly. I squatter here for God and still think about suicide on Sunday. Study the celebration. Hand me a goblet of my own piss and ask me if my mom made me this pussy. Ask me why I haven't learned to sit outside too long in my own shit, and I will tell you about sisters still souring on my front sewer when it rains, looking like mulch. I still don't know their sound. Thank you. We're gonna take a deep breath in. And take a deep breath out. Cool. I always do that in my sets because it's necessary. That poem was written, and I feel like when I was writing that poem, I've been writing that poem since I was in middle school, right? Like, I feel like there's this time where I feel like I've been living my poems and I need to get past that lived experience to be able to articulate what that process was like. But that poem was really embodying a specific time period of my life and analyzing gender and playing around with the ways in which people try to put gender in boxes and people in boxes. And I was just really just going through that experience. So yeah, I'm gonna read 3 more poems. This other poem is called Y'all. There were never any neighbor boys gnawing at our summer sweat sickles. No gym winks, no crush chafing, no coming age where we'd match the dogwoods. We hung up like girls pained in pain of windows, dreaming about lungs fat as Pocomoke poor drunk livers, cannon towards the sun, drowned in black velvet clouds. The weather girls in fall is how do we sing into the black mascots. The murder men in uniforms in South Pole, the slick boys. If we could die for Dick or Devin or Daquan or Devontae, we can cut our mouths to be tulips or terrors, leashed by hunger and touch. Master Moz will look down on us legendary. Urban legend like a God-fearing black man, like a black mother letting the outside roam her house, like a cousin's new nuck buck Timberlands kissing the mud's face and still coming out blood fresh. VA is a special country, a seasonless Neverland where the tire tar is a faggot. The skidded skunk skidding into the snow is a faggot. The boy who meals in the art room alone during recess is a faggot. The herky at the talent show is a faggot. The brine blood making out with our fists. The girl's Coogee jacket, track pants. The boy's gum pink razor. The juice of joy is a faggot. My niggas twirling in prisms is not how we found our way out. Leasing our bodies to cinema. Back home in the basements, in the cathedrals, in the kitchens, at the spades table, at the food line, at the barbershop. We don't use that word, queer. We'd say, ain't Miles Ben's wrist, or didn't Rachel come home without her prom date, still talking that girl up about a sleepover, stirs the sweet tea. My South, this South is a country full of Black speech symbols, a symphony of silences sons sprint from, daughters sing to. I am not saying there was no one like us. What I'm saying is we didn't know where to shout, to twerk, to leave our bodies limbs. Sometimes you have to run away to love your country back, to know how to look your family in the face with skunk in mouth, razor on belt, tar as mascara and defiled dreams. We wife nations, sovereign sisters, moon mothers, faggot forgottens. We new nations. Thank you. Wow. This is my first time reading some of these poems out loud, so I'm just like, okay, it feels a little weird. Cool. Wow, this is so weird to just be reading and then be silent, but it's cute, I know y'all listening, I know y'all out there. I appreciate the love. Okay, I'm gonna do two more poems. So I don't, if you know my work, I have this poem about my mother, and I love writing poems about my family. It's probably my favorite poem that I've written, but I felt like when I was at Pink Door, I wrote, so Pink Door is this poetry retreat for non-cis men writers of color, and so when I was there my first year in last year was 2019, so it was 2017. Wow, so long ago. In 2017, I wrote this poem called And I Will Always Be Your Mother. And I felt like I needed to write this poem in the experience of my father. And I really didn't have the language to do that at the time. And so I went back last year for Pink Door in 2019, and I came up with this poem. And this poem is called To Dance With My Father. To dance with my father for Tilden Avery Golden. Boy untitled, stomach splitter, my son, I forgot my dreams. When you were born, I filled you in the blank every day. Oxygen and ink. My back spasms from all I seed. I carry my clots home to your mom. I would live there if I could afford our freedom. My first brother knows what that means now, spilling with scong. My second brother is faded from his bruises, splattered with scotch. No one told me how much I would break while being a father. I didn't shatter you. Don't call me fat omen. Don't call me a home haunted. Don't call me gone. Don't disrespect me like that, like you don't know who I am. I drove you to the therapist before myself. Fuck me. I trained you for this. This Black hiding, this police parenting, this police parenting. You forget I have to duck too. Subtract every bullet from this world and you'll still end up someone else's sin. Dad said, if you can't balance a checkbook, how can you hold a gun, a myth, a pedestal, a parent? I did what I knew how to hold. I don't understand the way you paint your face with your mother's smile, but I see there's God in you. We made you this way. Sometimes love, sometimes disappointment. I raised you with a silver sponge. I am my father's scratching, my mother's illnesses. She keeps hidden in her jewelry box. And yes, we can call them ill now. They're dying. That's growth. Everyone is swimming away from me and I'm not sorry. I'm a parent that way. We want to fix everything we didn't have. We are children that way. This is how I became a man, your father. Tell me I did nothing, and I'll tell you about the carcasses I collect in your baby book. A dozen sons' tongues tapping out to be your red carpet. I remember my dream now. Me fist deep in someone's soft desert for you. Can you hold my fathering in your mind when you think of me? Do you think of me? Even when you spit? Even when I spit? Even when I'm hooked in your jaw? Miles, golden, sunshine, you fly like a crow's wing, like a lessons lesion. Like your mother, I'm learning the ground is the sky sometimes. You hear me? I'm trying to fill in the blank, to live up to my own name. Thank you. We're gonna take one more deep breath in. Communally at home, we're gonna do and out. Cool. Wow. Okay, I'm gonna do this last poem so I can stop talking and we can hear from other people because I know y'all are tired of hearing from me. It's like it's all love. I really do appreciate y'all for sticking around and for being here. This has been, I don't know, this has been the like push that I need to keep putting community first, and I really appreciate everything that y'all have done. So I'm gonna close it out with this poem and then we'll go into our conversation. So I wrote this poem during quarantine, so this is new work. I'm gonna get some water beforehand. I'll be dehydrated. I don't want to get to that last word and then be sounding out of breath, girl. You know, when I do live performances, I be having to bring like a whole like this really helped me out, y'all. This is really saving me. You know, keeping it great. Okay. So this poem is called Contradictions. Contradictions. And maybe at the gates, I need no one by me. And maybe everyone is no one mothering my palms into wings. Maybe I don't need wings to remember myself loved. Or maybe I need angel ancestors or anchor ankles to remember I lived when I hear my brother's accent in my mouth. Maybe every love has left a licorice lesion shaped like a door, or every lover has left a lost lesson shaped like a mirror. Maybe gates are a door, and the door is a captain, and the captain is a weapon, and the weapon is God, and maybe not, and maybe yes. Maybe weapons are loyal, meaning blood-bound, meaning subjective servants, meaning tyrants teetering. Maybe words betray the blood and what the brain thinks it knows, and maybe cells are the brain engine, the heart breath. Betrayal may be the anatomy of death or synonym for set free. Maybe mother friends, femme sisters, day one niggas know how men have been. So they named children after poisons, marigold, glory, cathedrals. Maybe that's why we call our friends bitches, shooters, hitters, anything after what fraught families have hidden under their tongues, under their mattresses. And maybe we were never women, but the father. Maybe mother is to be a flock of fathers who know they were that one before beginning, before his boy's genesis. And maybe being a man means remembering for a lifetime that you've been mothered. Maybe, and maybe something better than now. Maybe we've been better than now, but maybe we are wings. Maybe we've always been a captain, blood-bound, doors shaped like gates, and maybe we are loyal weapons, mirroring no one. Thank you all.
Oh my God, that was amazing.
Thank you. Wow. Can we give it up for everyone? I kind of just want to like do like a little round of applause for all y'all amazing people. Thank y'all for like blessing this space, y'all's work. Excuse me. I kind of just like, I don't know. I've just been thinking about this because it's the last one. Okay, this lamp is amazing. That's so beautiful. Because it's the last. That's what we need. That's what we need. Because this is the last kickback, I've had the most time to think about it. And like when I named this kickback about pronouns and naming, I really didn't put together that everyone has like has a chosen name here, and I think that that's like really interesting dynamic. And I just been thinking about like how was that journey for you all to like figuring out language to define yourself, and like what did that look like for you? And anyone can start. I'm just like an open forum. So like, how did you? Oh, go ahead, take.
What was that? Yeah, I was gonna say that like my name was both given to me, and also so Texas was a name that was given to me when I was playing music or participating in the hardcore scene in New York. And I got it from the lead singer of an all-girl rock band who at the time didn't feel like now my dead name sort of fit my persona. And I thought that it was interesting, I guess the decision of Texas, because it was during the time of Bush's presidency. And so there was a lot of complicated feelings around that, especially as a very, very young person. And like, my thinking, during that time is like throw the whole state away. Now I'm much more educated on that. But, it was like, it also had so much to do with like not traveling within the country, right? And just thinking that like, oh, Texas, like, mostly, or it's just a white state when that's, far from true. And Isaiah is technically my middle name, but I decided to combine the two. And because I felt like people were becoming a little bit too familiar with me. And so it was a way to, I guess, uh, somewhat like make people more attentive in terms of like how they were walking into my space, if they were hearing me, if they were not. And also I just, like the name. I think it's a memorable name, right? But I think more on like sort of the protection basis, it was something like, okay, like I love Texas, but like I'm feeling like very unprotected in this moment, and especially like within my work, because I was also going through my medical transition, and so it was sort of like, an armor, um, and a way to like, I guess, navigate social spaces.
I can go next. Thank you, Texas. It's really dope. I so my I was gonna say my birth name, which is still a name that I use and I'm okay with. Like I use it formally and I'm okay with that. I think that, well, first of all, my name was given to me. I used to play basketball in Roxbury, Washington Park, and people just call you what they want to call you. Okay, like blue shorts, Aggie ass, whatever your name is. And this one dude just started calling me Oompa Loompa baby. But if he gave me a name at all, it was like that he was recognizing that I was balling. And somehow that name stuck. But I think that at the time, and I was reflecting on this not too long ago, but at the time, I think that my relationship, so my name was the name, like all of my sisters are L-A-K, L-A-N, like that's Lakara, Lanika, Lanaya, Lakenya, Lakayla, right? My nephews, Laquan, Lakeith, so it's like all of that. But she named us as a way because she said that her life had taken her in so many interesting directions that weren't always great. And she figured that naming us would mean that no matter where we were in the world, people knew that we came from her. And I think that that was a complicated reality for me at some point in my life. One, and I thought the name was super feminine at a time where I was like really rejecting that as like my own sense of like internalized like something or another. And I think that I was rejecting that a lot. And I was looking for something to feel home in. And I think that this name sticking was like a way for me to kind of do that with what resources I had. I didn't want to go out and like find a name necessarily, but one came to me, and I think it was an opportunity that I like latched onto, and then it kind of just it took over. And strangely enough, like the more and more I am like doing work internally to like interrogate some of the places that that initial rejection came from, and to undo that, the more and more I'm allowing like people who know me in intimate spaces, or who've known that to be my name my whole life. I'm allowing like the name to have more presence in my life, in the same way that I think having that relationship to my birth mother and my like sense of femininity is also like something I'm welcoming back into my life in certain ways. So
Thank you for sharing.
yeah.
And feel free to jump in, or whatever. I'm just gonna let it hang.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Texas Isaiah, I really resonated with what you were talking about in terms of you have a name that when someone gives it back to you, it demonstrates that they are listening to you. And I really feel that because I often think about how people can hear me, but still not understand what I'm saying. Because somehow in this complicated process, I had chosen the name Chrysanthemum, right? And I was like, oh, it's like similar enough to my like birth name. And it can still be shortened similarly because I don't want to burden other people with having to learn a new name. But in my day-to-day life, like if I go around saying like my name is Chrysanthemum, people are like, what language is that? Like, and I don't know, like I think it was somewhere in Massachusetts. I went to some coffee shop where they take your name. The barista was a Vietnamese boy, and he was like, Chrysanthemum, that's a crazy name. I'm like, I'm different. What can I say? But
You yourself,
yeah.
Mhm.
But Oompa, what you were talking about in terms of like a name showing where you can come from, and like a, all the names in a family is like a tree of itself, right? You can make a tree out of that etymology. So with the name Chrysanthemum, right, my father's name is Anthony, so and that was my middle name too. So I kind of like incorporate my dad into that. And despite my relationship with my mom, when she got to choose her own English name, she very much went with a very like Southern style name, like a name that sounds like two words. So she is Mary Ann. And I could shorten Chrysanthemum to Chris Ann. So, I thought about it, it had layers, but it's also really complicated because, you know, my name isn't legible for a lot of people, and like maybe I should have chosen an easier name, but you know,
No, like I feel like someone said
Hey,
like I think was someone was saying before that like, oh, you can pronounce all these other like famous like composers names, or like famous artist names, like painters, like you can pronounce anyone's name. I feel like it's just a matter of like effort and like listening. Like if I can't pronounce something, I'm always like, y'all see me do it here, I'll just be like, let me, if you repeat it for me real quick, and I'm gonna try. Like I'm gonna just be. Oh, I feel like being open when you can't pronounce it. I feel like having an openness to just be like, do you mind saying your name for me just so I can get it right? I think most people will be, I guess, like inviting to that interaction. I think it's all about intent, right? Like I think for you to go, like I think if you go in and just like butcher someone's name, like taking the agency out of just like asking, I think that's where you have complications, right? Like I think that's where it comes like in naming or pronouns, right? Like if the agent's taking agency from someone's experience, right? And speaking of, um,
and also it's like it's also like if we could even say that a name is difficult, then imagine being the person to have that name. So like make like I think it's okay to for somebody to work to get it right, like just like it's work for you to carry your name, And I wanted to say something earlier when I was saying what I was saying, which was it you, Golden, or Portia, that was like, and countries that declare independence get to name themselves. That was Portia. Okay, yeah. But I think about that often. Like you, right?
It's a great poem. Like
It was. It was.
plug. But yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's really real. Like, I think that poem is like perfect for people thinking about that. And like, I feel like even if they were a part of this conversation, they'd be add so much. And like, I think when I resonate a lot with you all. Like, my name isn't like my name is my birth last name. Like, it's not something. It's given to me still. I think that for me, it was really hard to create an identity that isn't like representation of my family. I think like lineage and diaspora is really important, especially to POC and Black folks. And so like for me, I felt like I wasn't. I feel like, and also like what you all said in regards to honoring the life that name lived, or whatever that person, because I really think that like it boils down to that, like I'm no longer Miles, and like I was never like I'm like that's the thing. I think that people associated the personhood with the name, and because I think that everyone isn't futurist mind enough to be able to fluctuate into different conversations of being like, oh yes, this is this past person and their trains, and like I think that people are stuck in the binaries and in like society's definitions of how gender and how people should be. So to me, I was just like, it's easier for me to just create someone else because that's who I really felt. And so I just like, I think it was just like, I think I was at like slam practice one day and someone just was just like, oh, golden, like golden go. And I think I was like, oh, I like that. Like that sounds good. And so I just kept it and it stuck. And like I like how you have that like personal narrative oompa where it's just like that's what someone called you and that's what you answered to. Because like I think that's like it's such a because I think that like there's like a beauty in that, right? Getting like this like this nickname. I think there's something big in many POC and Black communities. Like I still call my cousins the same nicknames. Like and like I love that. Like just like honoring a lineage and different things like that. And just talking about like y'all's work, like how was the journey in like finding the language to identify yourself? How that personal journey of finding yourself, naming yourself, what that look like on the same parallel of trying to find out what your artwork looked like trying to find the identity through creation, and like some of us are poets, some of us are visual artists. Like how was that process? And it's a big question, so I mean you can like think about it for a second. And things that I think about for me is just I felt like I couldn't have a full language with who I was until I got to a certain point in my life. But also I feel like I always knew who I was. Like I always feel like I had I think I said this last night where I feel like I was always pointing to the language that I was trying to have, like, I guess, like verbally. And I felt like my artwork actually showed up before and like representing my identity before I have language to ever articulate that. Like I'll go back and look at some images and I'm like, oh, I always knew I was trans and femme and like this identity fit for me. But it really wasn't until I got to college and I was on my own and like I really like lived, like I was living in New York by myself. Well, not by myself, but I was living in New York, like not under family. And so that experience really propelled me. And taking self-portrait, I don't know, Texas, Isaiah, if you can talk to this about how self-portraiture was a journey to self, because that really helped me.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the question of identity, like just through the creation of work and how they kind of simultaneously sort of exist, with each other. And I think for me, it's not, it's never so much about how can those two things align, but I think the conflict that I faced was doing it in public. So that is creating, at least trying to figure out the language, you know, to express how you're feeling on top of making work and then putting that work in public. And I think I was grappling with a lot during that time because it was the moment of like the first wave of the trans tipping point when Laverne Cox was on the cover of Time Janet Mock was out here, and I think that not only just for me, but I feel like a lot of pressure, a lot of people felt pressured to sort of publicly kind of talk about things that deserve time. And so I think a lot of my early portraits were showered in a lot of shadows and silhouettes. And it was something that I had spoken about with a colleague of mine for a Vice interview, in which I was sort of honoring this spiritual essence of what it means to be gender expansive and acknowledging that, but also hiding, right? As a person who loves portraiture, there's so much that I also face that a sitter may face when I'm in front of my own lens, regardless of whether or not anybody is in the room with me, right? And so I was sort of dancing in between those two things of like honoring this and honoring my ancestors, and then also like wanting to hide because of however I felt about, my body and my existence, and then putting that out in public, right? So these archives are being pushed out for people to see. And a lot of those projects that I started failed. And I love talking about the failure of a project because I was trying to figure myself out.
And I think you learn
And
that, in those
yeah,
in that process. 'Cause
yeah,
process, right?
yeah, it's a long process. It's never ending, but like those few like first stages can be very difficult because, also it's just not about creating the work. It's also like tied to a career and tied to, so there were so many things that I was worried about during that time. Like, will my family disown me? Like, am I gonna have a career? And so thinking about it in a way in which I didn't have to negotiate myself, but then if I had to run into that, like, then what do I do? Because there's one thing to be a visual narrator or creator and creating work and not putting yourself at the forefront of your work. But I think that when self-portraiture comes in, it's people are exposed to you in a way that can be very scary. And so trying to find a way to be playful and mindful within that, but definitely a lot of lessons. And one of the lessons that I think that I learned was just like, at the end of the day, it's like you grow to like not really give a fuck. In like regardless of the impacts of like whether or not you have enough resources to pay your rent, to get food or whatever, but in terms of the daily life and waking up in your own physical vessel, it's just like it why does it like really matter? Like I think you get to that point, but it just takes a lot of labor.
Oompa, do you sound like you wanted to add on?
Yeah, I think that that's exactly like that's the language right there that I was working backwards from. Is like, why is it that I don't give a fuck? So like, why excuse my language, why don't I care anymore? Why don't you care anymore? And I was thinking about how like sometimes like I think that when I was younger, like there was something I understood about myself, but there's like language is required when you're trying to communicate something to someone else. And so I think that like I was wanting to be understood and I was wanting to conjure understanding about who I was and about like how I saw myself. And so I think for a long time, like I wanted to name so that like while I was in this conversation, I like could give language to who I am and how I wanted to be represented. And I think that I'm in this place where like I'm going from naming myself to knowing myself and that being enough, and like not caring about having to be in conversation with other people and like what they're saying. So like I think I'm my only interest, especially when creating, like and I again, this friend who's been like really really dope in my life, like gave me language for this feeling of like just my interest is being like closer to God, like in my art. And like for me that largely means like going unnamed. I think like unnamed, like unlearning and learn, like I don't know what I'm trying to say, but
I think you're making sense. I think you're talking about like unlearning this like idea that you have to like we talked about last night about a lot about capitalism and how like it like projects you into this like realm of like having to maximize. I think like you're trying to say like you're in this realm of like trying to maximize yourself. Like you're trying to figure out how to like build a career off yourself, especially if you're at the center. And that's why I hear.
No. What I'm saying is that the point, like, and being when I was younger was like naming myself and trying to name myself in my work was about making sure I existed and that I had language for how I exist. Where now, like, my interest is not even in how other people are in that conversation about who I am, but it's about how I'm in conversation with me and with God and like my bigger purpose is.
Yeah, so you're in a conversation with your higher purpose and trying to figure out like what is good for you instead of trying to figure out like
what's the conversation.
Yeah,
exactly. And the only reason I feel like sometimes I even name myself in certain ways now is like to mark my place on the lineage. I think is just to be like, we here in like 20 from 1991 to whatever. Like we was here doing this like and like just to mark myself in that way. But now it's like the concern is no more about like other people in conversation with me about me. Yeah.
What's it called? I was just wondering, Cassandra, did you have anything to add or jump in? I didn't want to cut you off.
No.
Oh yeah, just really quickly, what you talked about how a name is really for communicating something. I think a lot about how I only give something a name so other people can handle it, right? Like you don't need to know who I am, but if I give you my name, it's with the intent that, you know, you're gonna call me up or you're gonna refer to me in some way. Right, like I can have all of these understandings about who I am in terms of my gender. I can have all this language for it, but you know, what does that matter when I'm walking down the street? And then, like, even then, what does it matter when if that doesn't match my ID? So for my own self, you know, I'm like, the name that I'm going to get changed on my documents is not going to be Chrysanthemum. You know, it's going to be a different name. I'm not keeping my birth name, but I like to feel like chrysanthemum is something elusive that I can keep for myself. That like the government can't track me down because of that, because I don't exist in the system in that way.
And I like how you and correct me if I don't want to misquote you, Chrysanthemum, but you were saying how like you have these it's a name for yourself and how like that naming was something that like was for you to it feels like to name yourself here, to name yourself present. And I like what you're talking about. I kind of resonate with that because so I used to work at this kind of like tech job, and I only went by my dead name because I didn't want to be introduced into a space that was not like centering trans people or like I was the first person to bring up like, oh, we should like ask people's pronouns or like give a space for people to offer their pronouns when they are doing a job application. So like it felt like I didn't even go into the space as golden, and it didn't feel like I could be golden. So like, why would I give that name to you? It felt like when I first started, and I feel like sometimes, but like I've also in the past like 2 days I've removed my dead name out of my email and like everything. So like I've like scrubbed it out of my website, and so I've just been thinking about the ways in which like access to the self is important. It is I wanted power over that. And like Texas Isaiah, you brought up this great point where you were like, it felt like people were being too familiar to me. Like, and like also I think that like one thing that I felt is like I felt like people being too familiar with me with not respecting who, like it was familiar to a person who I didn't even know. Right. It was familiar to a being who they thought I was and never asked me if I was. Right. And I think that that is where when I get very strict about like the way I'm named or just like exist in space, I think that there's a presence. And like I think there's also a responsibility that happens when you I think that when you engage in conversation with someone, you take the responsibility to try to make that space as inviting for that other person to be as well. And I feel like like whenever I have a conversation or when I'm like going back and forth about people who are like, oh well, you were just like, we just used the wrong pronoun. I'm always like, well, it's not like it's not about that, right? Like it's I think you're like people boil it down. It really is about a lack of understanding who I am and how I show up and how I name myself, right? Um, and so I've just been thinking
Yeah,
about
yeah, and then also, making sure that we're like also checking in because we're evolving every day, right? So like Texas Isaiah may not be the name that I'm writing with like in 5 years, and that's my decision, that's my choice. But I think also, yeah, it's just to for folks to realize that like you can't box in um you can't box in and experience a body, a spirit in that way. So it's like it's about acknowledging who somebody is, or at least attempting to doing that labor, and then knowing that that can evolve and that can shift. Because that's why we're here, right? One of my close friends, Tiana, she always says like, we're here to be ancestors, and so when we're sort of elevating um uh sort of to that realm, it's like we things are always going to shift. Like my pronouns may shift, my name may shift, like I will shift. And so I just want people to be more intentional about asking questions. And even with, I'm glad I contacted you anyway with that whole visco thing, to spotlight your work, because the idea, and I reached out to everyone, but that the idea was like, I want to fact check and make sure that I'm like saying your name correctly, you know? Because there's nothing like worse than like having something of yours presented, or you being presented in a space and someone not getting it right. And it's not so much about the mistake, but how someone arrived at the mistake and the mishaps of that.
and I think that is so important. And I think that like whenever I have conversations about this, I feel like it really boils down to if you're really coming with someone with love, with openness, like I feel like most people will feel respected. Like I feel like people have this idea that like trans or non-binary people are like out here being like, you can't like say this, you can't like whenever someone has this like outlandish like things like you could be green, pink, purple, or like I don't know, I could be, my pronouns could be flamingo. I'm just like you're upset because you couldn't be open with like how someone like how someone's you're threatened by their being, by their presence. And I think that like a lot of people don't know what to do with their personhood um being threatened. Or I think that like it's like I think they think even just like our presence is a threat to their existence. And I think it's hilarious to me. It's hilarious because I think that like I think it's and I say it's hilarious is because trans people and non-binary people, their lives are always threatened, right? Especially trans and non-binary people of color and Black people, right? Like they're like our presence is literally threatened. Like when I walk out my door, when I exist in space, and so I think that like we there's this lack of perspective of understanding there. Um, but I want to go back to one point you brought up though, Texas Isaiah, and like just like you said talk to your friend Tatiana and like the way they were y'all having this conversation and like
Tiana.
or Tiana, sorry about that. Tiana and you're talking about your friend who really gassed you up. And like, I think one thing that has also helped me arrive to myself is the people who I have around me and like seeing expansive ways that they just like be also challenges me to really figure out who I am. So, I don't know, like, I don't know if anyone wants to talk about like that, like journey and community, and like we're gonna close it out in the next couple of minutes, and then I'm gonna close on like a wrap up of the section and stuff like that. I feel like we need like a space to like name people. Like I'm always like my favorite thing in a poem is to name names because I think a lot of people put I'm like, how could you not arrive with your ancestors? How can you not arrive to this poem without your people? And like, I'm always like, whenever I coach, I'm just like, put that name in there, like say that person's name. And yeah, I think it's important.
Yeah. I mean, ooh, it's so it's so wild to have a support system when you have felt like you wouldn't have a support system with being who you are, you know? It makes me very grateful that, my parents have my back, my father, he still tells me, all the time, like, you are my child and I'm responsible for you. This is my job. Like, to not love you, like I'm not doing I'm not pulling my responsibility. And then also, like, their growth. My parents, I'm first generation. My family's from Guyana and Venezuela and Barbados, Black indigenous folks. My father is like 72, my mom is like 65, I believe, and like they say my name in full. Like they still send me birthday cards. My father still like gives me flowers on Valentine's Day and for my birthday. Like they say my name. Like and it took so much work for them to arrive at that. But they knew that they had to do that. And so I find myself asking what everyone else's problem is, because there's also, there's stereotype about, in specifically like Black and like POC parents who are immigrants, and them not always understanding, which that is definitely a fact. But I'm glad that I can say that my parents do understand. And then they're helping other family members within the tribe understand. But I also feel like it just goes back to the lineage, right? Like, my mom's side of the family, they come from the Arawak and the Carib tribes. And so, like, they have, like, some sort of knowledge about, what this is, you know? And in terms of like community and friends, like it's just been, a learning process as well with some people and with other people, not really, but like again, the tribe like keeps growing. And I think one thing that I have to say, within my community is that I actually have like a good amount of cis men who like are my siblings and my kin, um who we're vulnerable with each other, we're able to tell each other, we love each other. And I think it, I think the ticket into like this space is like, are you ready, are you ready and willing to like grow, like I don't want people to like come in and know all the things, because like we don't know that, we don't know everything. But you know so many to name, but I'm just like very proud of my community, not only in regards to how they treat me, but how they treat themselves, and their willingness to grow and their willingness to love other people and support other people, and spread their resources to other people as well, and so yeah, just shout out to the tribe, you know.
Yeah, I often feel like naming is, again, like not even so much for me, but for like other people, right? Like I'm trusting you to say, to call me what I want to be called, and I'm asking you to do that. Um, but I also feel like sometimes, like with my history of naming, like I'm just like a difficult friend. Like I'm like, call me this, call me that, call me this, call me that. And I think, one of the most generous things that my friends do, chrysanthemum is not the name I use in my real life anymore. It's something that I use more as an artist and online. Um, and so when my friends, were talking about me in real life, they were like, I changed your name in my contacts on my phone. And like, I hadn't even thought about that, but for them to have done that, that meant the whole world to me, because sure, I can have all these names for myself, but I feel most loved when I'm being recognized by people I love, right? And so, yeah, like I'm difficult. Like being with other people is difficult, but I think the most basic thing that loved ones can do for each other is call you how you want to be called. And, I've had so many different names in my life. Like fifth grade, I tried to make crispy bacon a thing. It didn't work. But, you know, that was a different life. And I think it's okay that I have all these lives with different names. And it definitely doesn't matter that the government doesn't have those names, right? Like, this is who I was when I was 7 to 8 years old. There's nothing that the government can do to, make me more of who I am. It doesn't matter if I submit the documents to get that changed or this changed. The government can't tell me who I am, you know. And so if I ever do get those documents changed, it's not for me. I'm not trying to legitimize myself. I'm trying to tell the government, this is how I want you to see me. That's it.
I thought I would have something else to add, but I don't. I thank you.
Okay.
I thank you all
I
for
think
sharing.
you spoke before, so it's like you jumped in. It's all good. And thank you all for like speaking and for sharing your experience. Um, it's been a pleasure to like curate this event and to put everything together. I like to be very transparent. This project, I had been thinking about this project for a little bit, and it really got pushed to the forefront when the COVID-19 pandemic came about. And I recognized that my community was going to be greatly affected by all the cancellations. But this project really came about as a testament to working in genres where trans and non-binary, specifically artists of color, and Black artists are not really centered, or I guess like it having been in the photo community and in the poetry community for a little bit now. I've seen the ways in which bureaucracy and just like misconceptions about how people's experience are in like hiring other people to share that, to like tell these stories. And I really was like, I want to hire 20 trans and non-binary artists to like tell their stories, because I think they're dope and amazing. And it really is a testament to be like, there's really no excuse to say you don't know any trans or non-binary artists. I feel like in any field, I feel like there's many people out there, and this is only like a small section of it. Like there really are amazing people out here doing tireless work, doing amazing work, telling their stories. And it's just been a pleasure to witness y'all, to uplift y'all, to be alongside y'all along this journey. And like going through all the technical difficulties, all the, trying to get things together. We really appreciate you for being with us through this entire month. I'd like to thank Sharon Amaguni and Christina Carroll for helping us with the live stream on the back end. They have been amazing. Thank you to Karen Goodfellow for all your support. Thank you for the Mayor's Office for Arts and Culture and the Mayor's Office for Women's Advancement for your partnership. And I think we can like cut the live now. I feel like we're good. We're good. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you, Golden.
Yeah, y'all can stay on because they'll cut the live stream. But
Okay.
let me see. It's like a little lag, but